So for this video, we'll be talking about decimal example problems. We're going to be working on adding and subtracting decimals, multiplying and dividing decimals, and then converting decimals to fractions and vice versa. We'll have 6 examples of addition and subtraction, 6 examples of multiplication and division, and then 6 examples of converting fractions for a total of 18 problems. Sorry, converting fractions and decimals for a total of 18 problems. We'll start off with the first one here, which is going to be 3.29. And then we're going to add 4.53. For this problem, since we're adding, we're just going to line them up. So we're going to have 3.29, 4.53 on the bottom. Make sure you line up the decimal points correctly. And since we're adding them, we're just going to add like we normally do. 9 plus 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 2 plus 5 is 7. Add the 1 back, we 8. And then 3 plus 4 is 7. And then at the very end, we just bring down the decimal. And we are left with our answer of 7.82. Okay. Moving on to the next problem. We have 7.45. And this time we're going to subtract 5.59. Okay. So similarly to the problem above, we're going to write them one on top of another. 7.45 minus 5.59. Make sure you line up the decimal point. That'll come in handy later when we get to bigger problems. But for right now, since we're subtracting, we see that, okay, 5 minus 9, we can't do that, so we have to borrow from the 4, make that a 3. This 5 becomes 15. 15 minus 9 is 6. 3 minus 5, we can't do that, so we borrow from the 7, make that a 6. We now have 13. 13 minus 5 is 8. 6 minus 5 is 1. And our answer is 1.86. Next problem will be 0.593 plus 3.241. Okay. And so in this case, we do the exact same thing. 0.593 plus 3.241. Make sure your decimals are lined up. And 3 plus 1 is 4. 9 plus 4 is 13. Carry the 1. 5 plus 2 is 7. Add the 1 back. We get 8. 0 plus 3 is 3. And our answer is 3.834. Okay. Next problem, things are going to get a little bit trickier. We're going to have subtraction this time. And we'll have 10.319 minus 4.51. Now for this problem, we have to line up our decimals just like we did in the other ones. So 10.319 minus 4.51. Now in this case, we're going to say we have a 9 and we need to subtract it against something. And so what we do in that case is if we have any empty space after the decimal, we can simply just add an imaginary 0. You can do that for any number as long as you're adding a 0 after the decimal. Additionally, if the front part, the whole part, for example, 4 or 10, like the 4 and 4.51, if we're missing a 4, we could replace that with a 0 as long as the entire whole part is missing. But that's not the case for this problem. Okay, so 9 minus 0 is 9. 1 minus 1 is 0. 3 minus 5, we can't do that, so we can't borrow from the 0, so we borrow from the 10, make this a 9. This becomes 13. 13 minus 5 is 8. 9 minus 4 is 5. And we're left with 5.809 as our answer. Okay. Next problem, we're going to go back to addition. We're going to have 3.4792 plus 6.5921. Okay, we're going to line them up like we did before. 3.4792 plus 6.5921. 2 plus 1 is 3. 9 plus 2 is 11, carry the 1. 7 plus 9 is 16. Add the 1 back, we get 17. We have to carry the 1 again. 4 plus 5 is 9. Adding the 1 on top, we get 10. So we have to carry yet another 1. 3 plus 6 is 9. And adding yet another 1, we get 10. And so now we just have to bring down our decimal, and we're left with an answer of 10.0713. All right, last problem for the addition and subtraction ones. I'll use a new page here. We will have 143.25 minus 12.1271. Okay, subtracting them out, we have 143.25 minus 12.1271. And notice how I'm missing 2 spots in my top number. Remember, you can add as many zeros as you need, as long as you're after the decimal point. And so now we can go ahead and subtract. And so now, 0 minus 1, I can't do that. I can't borrow from the other 0, so I have to borrow from the 5, make this a 4. Change the first 0 to a 10. Borrow from this, make it a 9. And then change the last 0 to be a 10. And now we can do 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 minus 7 is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then 1 minus nothing simply becomes 1. Just bring it down. Additionally, we bring down our decimal point. Make that a little bit bigger. And then our answer is 131.1229. Okay. For the next set of problems, we'll be doing multiplication and division. And so we'll start with a multiplication problem. We are going to have 0.24 times 3.1. Now when you're multiplying, like we're doing here, make that a different color. We don't need to line anything up, and we simply just multiply them out as if they were regular numbers. So I'm going to have 0.24, 3.1 on the bottom. I'm going to ignore the decimal places for right now, and I'll get back to them later. I'm going to go ahead and multiply this out. 1 times 4 is 4. Whoops, wrong color. I want to use the green for this. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 0 is 0. In fact, you don't need to do that. Then we're going to add a 0 back, move to the 3. 3 times 4 is 12, carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, and then add the 7. Sorry, and then add the one more to make it 7. And now we're going to add these two. We're going to get 4, 4, and 7. And now we need to focus on our decimal places. And so here, in the first number, I have 2 decimal places. In the second number, I have 1. And so if you were to add all those decimal places together, we would get free. So then that means I'm going to move over free spots. And my answer for this problem is going to be 0.744. Okay. Next problem we're going to do after this will be another multiplication problem. We will have 1.56 times 0.12, and similarly to our last problem, we're going to have 1.56 on top, 0.12 on the bottom, multiplying this whole thing out. Two times 6 is 12, carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, add the 1 back, I get 11. 2 times 1 is 1, add the 1 back, I get free. Add an imaginary 0. Actually, not an imaginary 0 in this case, it just talks for the place value. So add a 0. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 5 is 5. And 1 times 1 is 1. Now we're going to add this all together. 2 plus 0 is 2. 1 plus 6 is 7. 3 plus 5 is 8. And 1 plus nothing is 1. The last part we have to do here is count the place values. I see 2 in the first problem, in the first number, sorry, and 2 in the second number. So that means for our total here, I'm going to have 4. And so now I'm going to move over 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And my answer is going to be 0.1872. Okay. On to the next problem. We'll move on to division now. Actually, I'll just go down to a new page here. For division, we are going to have 7.56 divided by 3. Okay, so for division here, we're going to put 7.56 inside the division symbol, or the division house, however you've called it, and 3 will be on the outside. Now, since 3 is a whole number, I don't need to move any of the decimals around. We'll get to a problem where we will have to, though, eventually. But for right now, I don't have to deal with that. Now I can just divide out normally, and then take care of the decimal after I get my number. So how many times does 3 go into 7? It goes in twice. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract it out. I'm left with 1. Bring down the 5. 3 goes into 15 5 times. Subtract it out. I get 0. Bring down the 6. 3 goes into 6 2 times, and obviously it's going to cancel out to be 0. I'm not going to show that part. The last thing we have to do here now is just take our decimal point from 7.56 and bring it straight up. And my answer is going to be 2.52. 2.52. Okay. For the fourth problem, we're going to go back to multiplication for the last time. And so we're going to have 13.512 times 4.29. Okay. So for multiplication, we're going to have 13.512, 4.29 on the bottom, multiplying it out. 9 times 2 is 8. Oops, wrong color for that. Need to use the lime green. 9 times 2 is 8. Carry the 1. 9 times 1 is 9. Adding the 1 back, I get 10. Carry the 1 again. 5 times 9 is 45. Adding the 1 back, I get 6. Carry the 4. 9 times 3 is 27. Adding the 4, I get 31. Carry the 3. 9 times 1 is 9. Adding 3, I get 12. Well, that's a number. Okay. Now I'm going to add a 0. And now I'm going to do 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 2 is 0. Carrying a 1. I'm actually going to erase my top portion here so that way I don't get all confused. So I did 5 times 2 is 10. I have the 0. I'm going to carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Adding the 1 back, I get 7. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, now I need to add 2 zeros. And now I have to take care of the 4. So 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 3 times 4 is 12. Adding the 2 back, I get 4. Carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Adding 1 more, I get 5. And now I can add all 3 of these numbers back. Takes me back to elementary. Okay. Adding all these numbers up. 8 plus 0 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 2 is 8. Plus 8 more, I get 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. Adding the 1 back, I get 6. 2 plus 7 is 9. 9 plus 0 is still 9. 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 4 more is 7. And I get 5 left over. Okay. And so now the last thing we have to do is take care of our decimal places. I have 3 in the top one, 2 in the bottom, for a total of 5. Okay. So my answer, I'm going to write out my number first. I'm going to get 5, 7, 9, 6, 6, 4, 8. I'm going to have 5 decimal places, so it's going to be 57. And what was that? 96,648 hundred thousandths? Tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. Yes. Also known as 57.96648. Yep. There's your answer. All right. We have 2 more division problems to do, and then we will get to conversions. So the first division problem we'll do is 69.43 divided by 5.3. And so in this example, 69.43 is going to go inside the house. 5.3 is going to go outside the house. And now, because I have a decimal in the outer number in my number outside the house, I have to make it a whole number, which means I have to move this decimal over 1 spot, which means I have to move my inside decimal over 1 spot. Okay, now we can say, how many times does 53 go into 6? It doesn't. How many times does 53 go into 69? It goes in once. I'm going to get 53. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to get 16. Bring down a 4. 53 times 2 is 106. 53 times 3 will be 159, I believe. So I'm going to multiply. I'm going to say that this goes in 3 times. This is 159. And subtracting this out, 164 minus 159 is 5. Bring down the 3. Wow, it's almost like I planned this. 53 goes into 53 once, and I'm not going to show the rest of that. I'm pretty sure you guys know that 53 minus 53 is 0. And so then in this case, my answer is 13.1. Okay. One more problem to do for division. We are going to have 48.4044 divided by 3.86. Okay. 3.86 is going to go outside the house. And inside I'm going to have 48.4044. I need to take care of my number outside the house, which is 3.86. I'm going to move my decimal 2 spots over, move this 2 spots over, and now I can start work. Okay, so for division, 386 can't go into 4, it can't go into 48, but it can go into 484 once. I'm going to get 386. I'm going to subtract this out. I'm going to get 98. There's a simple trick here you can do, by the way. If you know that 486 minus 386 is 100, but you're missing 2 from 484, then you can just take 2 off of 100. Or you can just subtract it out the old-fashioned way. I'm going to bring down a 0. And now I'm going to sit there and think, how many times does 386 go into 980? Well, 300 times 2 would be 600. 300 times 3 would be 900. So I bet that this probably only goes in twice. If I was a betting man, I would say it goes in twice. And so I'm going to have 386 times 2. Even I don't know that off the top of my head. 2 times 1 is that. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry 1 is 7. Add 1 more. 3 times 2 is 6. 7. I'm going to have 772. Subtracting this out now. There is no shortcut for this. You just have to do it. Like a Nike commercial. 10 minus 2 is 8. This should actually be a 7 here. 7 minus 7 is 0. 9 minus 7 is 2, so I should have... What am I left with? 208. Yep. Okay, now I need to bring down the 4, which is hanging all the way up here, so I'm going to bring down a 4. And so now how many times does 386 go into 2084? And... that's an interesting problem. Let's see. 300 times 5 would be 1500. 300 times 6 would be 1800. But I have that extra 86. That'll probably bring me over 2000. So I'm going to say, let's do 386 times 5. So I'm going to have 386 times 5. Get 0, free. 8 times 5 is 40. Add the 3. Carry the 4. 5 times 3 is 15. That'll be 1930. Yeah, if you add one more 386, you're definitely going to go over 2084. So this will be a 5 on top. I'm left with 1930. 4 minus 0 is 4. 8 minus 3 is 5. Take out the 1, make this 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. And so now I have 154, but I have one more 4 left. So I'm going to bring down that 4 from the top. Keep in mind I have this extra 4 and I need to bring it all the way down. And it eventually goes right there. Right where I put it. Okay, so now how many times does 386 go into 1544? Well, we did 386 times 5, So I bet you, let's try 386 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24, carry the 2. 8 times 4 is 32, add the 2 back, I get 4. 3, and 4 times 3 is 12, add the 3, I get 15. Huh, look at that. So this number is going to be 4. And then this becomes 1544. Subtracting it out, I get a nice 0. And so my answer for this whole problem, which takes up a whole bunch of space, is 12.54. Division. You gotta love it. All right. That takes care of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. The last thing we're going to cover in this video is converting. Okay, we're going to start with fractions to decimals, and I'm going to give you 3 problems of fractions to decimals, and then we'll do 3 more as decimals to fractions. So 37 over 500 is going to be the first fraction we will convert. And in order to convert fractions to decimals, we need to simply divide it out. So 500 will go on the outside, 37 will go on the inside. I'm going to add my decimal point. I'm going to say, can 500 go into 37? No, it can't. So then can 500 go into 370? No, it can't. Can it go into 3700? Yes, it can. It can go in 7 times. And so then I'm going to get 3500. Subtract this out. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is another 0. 7 minus 5 is 2. 3 minus 3 is nothing. I'm then going to add another 0. Bring that down. And so now can 500 go into 2000? It can. It'll go in 4 times. 500 times 4 is 2000. Subtract it out, I get 0. Now I need to add an imaginary 0 up here to account for my decimal place being 1 spot over. And my answer is 0.074. I just realized I didn't write that in lime green, but it's okay. So I'll just move on to the next problem. Okay, the next fraction we're going to convert is 243 divided by 270. And so I'm now going to switch to lime green, so that way it's the correct color. 270 is on the outside, 243 is on the inside. Can 270 go into 243? No, it can't, so I need to add a decimal point and a 0. And so now can 270 go into 243? 2430? I bet you that if I do... So 270 times 10 is 2,700. So I'm going to try 270 times 9. I'm going 0 times 9 is 0. 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 2 is 18. Add the 6, I get 2,430. Well, that worked out really nice. Gonna subtract it out, and you get 0. And so my answer for this problem is going to be 0.9. Okay. We'll do one more problem, which is going to be 345. Whoops. Divided by 750. So we're going to divide this out. 750 is on the outside. 345 is on the inside. 750 can't go into 345, so I need to get my decimal point, add a 0. Now, can 750 go into 3,450? I know that 700 times 5 is 3,500, so I'm going to do 750 times 4. I'm pretty sure that's going to work. Oops. There we go. 0 times 4 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 7 times 4 is 28. Add 2 more, I get 30. And so I'm going to get 3,000 on the bottom. Subtract this out, I'm going to get 450. Add another 0. And so now 750 goes into 4,500 how many times? This is going to be kind of tricky. So I'm going to rely on my multiples of 7 here. 7 times 6 is 42. Okay. 700 times 6 is 4,200. And I also know that 5 times 6 is 30. And so that means 50 times 6 is 300. And so I bet you that's going to get me to be 4,500. So if I do 750 times 6, six times 0 is 0, 6 times 5 is 30, 6 times 7 is 42, add the 3, I get 45. And there we go. It's okay if you didn't know that off the top of your head. It's just a lot of practice. You can try 7, you can try 5, you can try going up a few numbers. It doesn't really matter in the end. What matters in the end eventually is getting the correct answer. It doesn't matter how long it took. And so my answer is going to be 0.46. There's not too many times you're being timed. What matters is getting the correct answer. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the other way around, taking a decimal and making it a fraction. So we'll have a few examples of this, and then we'll be done for today's video. We're going to start with 0.4, and we want to turn this into a fraction. And so I know that this is the tenths place. And so that means my fraction is going to be 4 out of 10. Now right here, you do have an answer. It's 4 tenths. But more than likely, you want to simplify. Always simplify your answers. And so I know that 4 as a prime factorization can be written as 2 times 2. 10 is 5 times 2. And that means I can cancel out one of these 2's. And my answer will then be 2/5. Or 2/5, whichever way you say it. Okay, my next problem is going to be 0.214. And I want to convert this to be a fraction. So I know that this is the tenths. This is the hundredths. And this is the thousandths. And so that means my fraction is going to be 214 divided by 1,000. Now, let's see. I know that 214 is 2 times 107. And 107, I'm not sure if it's prime. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there aren't a lot of factors for 107. So I'm going to say that this is 2 times 107, and that this could be written as 2 times 500. So I know I can cancel out this. 2. Now, 107 and 500. 500 has factors 2, 5, and 10, and probably a couple of others, but those are the major ones, 2, 5, and 10. 107 does not have 2, it does not have 5, and it does not have 10. So I'm pretty sure that that is simplified. And so my answer in this case will be 107 over 500. All right, one last problem for the day. We are going to have 4.3138. And so to convert this, we have the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths, the 10,000ths. So this is the 10,000ths. Now, for a decimal that has a whole number, when we write it as a fraction, you can simply take the 4 and make it the whole part of a mixed number, because what this is going to change into is a mixed number. So it's going to have a number portion and then a fraction after it. And so that means, in this case, I'm going to have 4 and 3,138 over 10,000. Now, here, I know that both of these have 2 as a factor. And so that means I can divide out 2 from 3,138. 2 goes into 3 once. Subtract it out 11. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 10, 1, 3. 2 goes into 13 6 times. I get 12. Subtract this out, I get a 1, 8. And 2 goes into 18 9 times. So I know here I'm going to have 2 times 1,569 on top, and 2 times 5,000 on the bottom. I can cancel this out. Now 5,000 again has factors 2, 5, and 10. It is not divisible by 3. Is it divisible by 4? Might be divisible by 4, but I know a number ending in 9 I don't believe is divisible by 4. 2, 5, and 10, it's not divisible by 3, which means it's not divisible by 6. So 5,000 is not divisible by 6. I'm pretty sure it's not divisible by 7 or by 8, and not by 9. 1,569, on the other hand, that's not even, so it's not divisible by 2. For 3, if I add up all the digits, I get 6, 12, carry the 9, I'm going to get 21. It is divisible by 3, but 5 is not divisible by, but 5,000 is not divisible by 3. It's not divisible by 4, it's not divisible by 5 or 10. It's not divisible by 6. Is it divisible by 7? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's divisible by 8. So I think my answer is 1,569 over 5,000. I believe that is my answer. And that'll do it for today's video.